So, as I said, back by popular demand, because last time we didn't record the Steer Shaken session, people sent me emails and messages over school inside the open source AI voice community. You know that one? You familiar with the open source AI voice community on school? So that one is managed by Noor, and there's a lot of high very highly skilled people in there talking about, the next level of how to work with voice AI. Things like PipeCat and LiveKit are really interesting. So there's a big group there talking, and if you're not in that group, I really suggest, I urge you to go in and join because there's a lot of interesting discussions in there. So the objective is to understand steer shaken right now, not so much from a telephony standpoint or how a carrier sees it, but more as how does an AI agency has to look at steer shaken when they're building outbound voice agents, which is very important. So one thing is that you need to remember that this is not a formal steer shaken tutorial, and it doesn't even let's say come close to one. This is a very high level view of steer shaken, and it is designed to be incredibly simplified and abstracted so that non-telecom people can understand what it means. Okay. A lot of people came to me and tell me, no, this is not how steer shaken should be taught. I said, well, this is not a steer shaken tutorial. It is something very, very rudimentary. It's designed to be very simple. So, technically speaking, why was steer shaken even invented? So, over the course of the years since voice over IP was introduced into the US, and in the let's say the late 1990s, when voice over IP in the US became deregulated. Basically anybody could start a voice over IP company. This is what's known as the Pulver Act. um, a lot of companies started integrating voice over IP, and as technology evolved and as more and more open source projects came to be, like Asterisk and FreeSwitch and GNU-GK and Brickheck and all of these, um, we started getting issues in the US, specifically with caller ID spoofing and robocalling. And robocalling is annoying, and caller ID spoofing is even worse because it means people can impersonate, and there were a lot of issues with it. And Steer Shaken was devised as a standard or more of a workflow or framework to combat these issues of caller ID spoofing and robocalling. And what does it actually intend to do? It's intend to make cold calling really hard and annoying for businesses, because businesses that do a lot of outbound outreach, they do cold calling. And if you can't do cold calling in an efficient manner, then your business is very much stuck. And the concept of steer shaken is basically it's an attestation protocol. Now, what does attestation mean? Attestation means that I, as a party that sends out a phone call somewhere, I need to sign my call with some form of cryptographic key, and that I attest to the authenticity of the caller ID presentation that I present outbound. Now, up till now, everything sounds pretty straightforward, but here's something that you need to remember is that SIP, as a signaling protocol, is a declarative one. It means that the origin party that generates the actual SIP message basically has full control over what the message contains. That means that we need to trust them in order to believe that what they sent us is true. The purpose of Steer Shaken is to create a protocol where that information that was traversed will include a signature of some form, where if the signature is valid and it complies with the various formulas that are required, then the information is authentic. We can trust it. And we have three levels of attestation. First level is called full attestation. Full attestation basically means I own the number that I'm presenting. Number two, I as a telephony provider can fully attest to the origin of the call, the owner of said phone number, and that I have the legal capabilities to go to them and potentially sue them or pursue any legal action in relation to misuse of that phone number in one way or another. Or in simple English, I know who the customer is, I know where they are, I provided their phone number, and I have the full legal right to sue them for any wrongdoing. This is level one. Now, we all know that not everybody can be level one simply because not everybody owns all phone numbers. If you would have had just a single phone, let's say we had only one mobile carrier and one landline carrier in the US, then yeah, no problem. But this is not the case. We have multiple ones. So then we come into level B. Level B basically says, I'm responsible to the service that I'm providing to my customer. I know who they are, and I validated their authenticity as a business. But I cannot really verify the association between the phone number they provide as what they present and the fact that they really own it. So what will happen is that I will attest it at what's called partial attestation. It means that yes, I trust them. Yes, I know who they are, but I cannot attest that the number is real or that it's that they own it. Or in simple English, I know the customer, I know where they are. I didn't provide them that phone number, so I can't attest it at level A, but I do have the legal right to sue them for any wrongdoing. So I will attest saying level B. Yeah, I will attest to basically saying, yeah, these are cool guys. It's a kind of like in the old mafia movies. He's a good fella. Yeah, got him. Then we have the stupid part. This is level C, gateway attestation. Gateway attestation basically means you're clueless. Why are you clueless? Because you barely know where you got the call from. Maybe you know them, maybe you don't. Maybe you know them, maybe they're some kind of aggregator. Maybe they're some kind of, third-party service provider. You don't really know. So you're just passing the call along, and the only thing that you attest to is that, yeah, I got the call from somewhere that I trust one way or another. So it basically means I know the customer, I know where they are, I didn't provide them phone numbers, I trust them, but I can't do anything to them in case of wrongdoing. So if somebody behind them did something, well, can't do much about it. Now, where's the problem in all of that? Is that when the attestation workflow the way it should, okay, then the call origin, let's say this is the customer, okay, when they send the call over to their directly connected carrier, the customer doesn't need to attest to anything. They're the customer. The carrier is the one who needs to attest. Now, once the call goes to the net from carrier one to carrier two, then you need to attest it at level A. The more you go down the chain, the attestation becomes worse. Because if I attested here at A, This one can only attest at B. And now, at the same thing, from this will become a carrier, a gateway attestation. I just noticed that there's a spelling mistake in there. How silly of me. Now, one thing that we need to remember, by the way, if anybody got questions, just ask them. Um, what we need to remember is that the telephony carriers have analytic systems and they analyze their traffic in real time. And what that means is that they count the number of attestations on a per origin number and the number of attestation levels. So, for example, if they see 5,000 calls with attestation level C from the same phone number, they will realize, okay, that's probably a scammer or somebody spamming the system. This is why, for example, calls that if you originate 5,000 calls out of Twilio on the same number, you'll end up in such a when your number will get blocked as spam. So when a gateway identifies a growing number of calls, as I said, with a gateway attestation, they will start marking that number as spam. So how do we go about and continue from here? Now, here's the worst part is that carriers share information between them. Everybody thinks that carriers don't share. Oh yeah, they share. They share this information because normally the analytic systems, they don't own them. They take them as a service from somebody else. And that company actually sees everybody's traffic. And the result will be that 5,000 calls and you're going to get blocked. So what's the solution? You need to reduce your attestation levels. Your objective is to basically say, okay, I'm sending the call over to my carrier. I want to send to the last carrier on the line, number 4, and I want to make sure that this becomes a level A attestation. This is what I want to do. And in most cases, this is impossible because not most carriers do not have direct links to all the other carriers. The big ones do, smaller ones don't. So the result is that in many cases you can't do it. If you need to do that, you need to basically have a special kind of interconnect with the various carriers. For example, Cloudonix does have that today in the US. We currently have recently established a similar one in the UK. There's one being built right now for Canada. So you'll be able to call the entire North American numbering plan with full level A attestation. So the approach that Steer Shaken is taking in resolving these issues is a brute force attempt because they are literally saying we don't trust anybody and everybody needs to attest everybody needs to make sure that whatever they send it is clean and it's a very much a brute force approach. Um, it is an approach, and sorry to say, it's starting to get adopted globally, not only in the US. So we're seeing other countries starting to look at steer shaken as a solution, even for things it's not supposed to solve. Um, One of the questions people ask me is it the responsibility of the AI voice providers to resolve steer shaken related issues? It's a loaded question. I think not. I think not because they don't really own the numbers and they're not really liable to what their customers are doing. And in order to provide steer shaken level A attestation, you need to be liable to what your customer is doing, and you need to have very in-depth know of who they are and what they do. And I do not think that the various AI providers want to have that. It just doesn't make sense to me from a legal standpoint. So that's that. Questions up till now?
Does steer shaking introduce latency in any way? And if
No,
it okay.
no. Steer shaken is done at the signaling level. It's effectively just a crypto key that takes your call and then calculates a hash and signs it into the actual request. It's milliseconds, maybe a couple. That's it. It's not supposed to introduce any latency, and not neither in audio, because it's just it happens like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second at the beginning. That's it. Yeah. Okay. I love the next two slides. I really love them. Um, Most people don't realize that voice agents, by their nature, are very much susceptible to fraud. And can you guess why? Why would the voice agent be incredibly susceptible to fraud? You've been building voice agents. Come on.
Well, so depending on what area you're talking about, a voice agent that doesn't have street smarts, right? So it doesn't, so the susceptibility, like there's a case where a guy was able to inject or convince the voice agent to sell him a vehicle for $1, and the dealership had to honor it. So that's going in.
Yeah, that's one thing. I'm not talking about agent prompt injection. That's one type of fraud.
Yeah.
But that
What's the
fraud, that type of fraud requires that the bad actor understands really well how the agent is built and will understand what platform it uses, potentially what kind of language model it uses, and be able to force feed it information that will make it do something it's not designed to do. I'm talking about something much simpler to do and far more lucrative. So, if you ever noticed that, so we've built, all of you built agents and all of you had been talking, and chatting with Chat GPT, or Claude or Gemini, it doesn't really matter. And they all have one thing in common. They are all designed to please. They are they are all designed to always, always come up with a positive reaction from the user. That is what they need. That is what they want. If the user gets pissed at them, they'll do anything they can so the user will not be pissed. This is how the language models are designed. Can't do anything about it. It's part of their inherent design. Now, that behavior, that specific flaw makes them susceptible. And I'll explain how that thing can be used against them. So here's an interesting question. How big a problem is telephony fraud in the US alone
In dollar amounts,
in dollar amounts?
billion maybe.
$1 billion.
Yeah, it's a
$1 billion. I'm gonna let you take another crack at it.
multi-million.
Multi-million. Okay. Chad, you got a number?
I it's got to be a lot of money. I'd say over 1 billion.
Over 1 billion. Owen, you got a number?
100 billion.
100. Oh, you went off the board. Okay, fine. So there is a federal commission for this, apparently. It's called the CFCA, the Communications Fraud Control Association. And their report in 2023 says that US telecommunications fraud increased by 12% to $38.95 billion. So that's only in the US.
I was
The
close, no?
what?
I was the closest.
You're
No, I was the closest.
actually no, Owen was the closest because on a global scale, the number is actually 84 billion.
You said US.
Yeah, this one is only in the US, but globally it's over $84 billion. Can you imagine that number? Then you have to understand that when you say telephony fraud, it covers a lot of stuff like SMS fraud, premium rate fraud, a whole bunch of this. There's a whole world out there. Toll fraud, and it means that when they say $38.95 billion were lost, what they actually mean is that $38.95 billion were not charged by the telephony carriers for services that they rendered, and somebody else took the money. Think about it for a second. Somebody went out and took money out of AT&T's pocket without AT&T being able to do anything about it. There was an article a couple weeks ago about a guy that was sending invoices to Facebook, Google, Amazon, and a whole bunch of other, and Spotify, and he was sending them invoices for services that were never rendered because he found a loophole that all of these companies, when you send them an invoice, if the invoice is small enough, they won't even check the invoice. They'll just pay it out immediately. And
Wow.
and he did that for
Wow.
about something like $10 million over a few years. How nuts is that, right? So it falls under the same category of fraud. So what is the classic way where AI agent owners lose money? I call this wasting your money or wasting your cash. Uh, this situation, it normally happens when you have a competitor that wants to more or less harm you. So let's say I have a voice agent on Vappy, and I have 20 concurrent calls that I can do into said agent. And there's a phone number. Now, this is my voice agent, and I have a competitor that would really love the fact that A, my all my agents will not respond to anybody, and B, he would love the idea of me spending a lot of money on Vappy and not making any money back out of it, right? So what would he do? He would hire a bad actor, or he will just go on the internet into Twilio, and he will write a very simple script of an automatic dialer. The automatic dialer will then dial the phone number of the voice agent, and the voice agent, what will it do? It will pick up, right? And the automatic dialer at that point will just start playing back a stupid message. The message could be a person trying to talk, like, yeah, no, I'm not sure. Yeah, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the agent, because it is designed to please, will just keep on talking for hours. So, one of the cases that I've seen was an AI agent that completely went off the deep end, talking to an inbound call recording for 3 hours. Yeah, Matt, I can see you laughing there, but it's nuts. Why is that? Because the person owning the agent didn't realize that he can put in a time limit saying, don't let the call go beyond 5 minutes. Right? How is something so simple can just solve everything?
I was just experiencing this. Yesterday, I was working with 11 Labs, and I noticed that it continues talking, and even if you give up the call, it doesn't hang up.
It doesn't hang up. Correct. It's the same problem. It's part of it. And the question here So what really is the purpose of this kind of hack? Is who's making money here? So there's a good question. So number one, the attacker can be a competitor business that wants to hurt you. That's number one. Option number two, the attacker is somebody working on behalf of the AI platform because you're a small customer and you're not paying them enough. So they are going to generate. Now, that is pure fraud. That is pure fraud. Does it happen? I hope not. I really hope that doesn't happen because if it does, we're in a very big problem. I really hope it doesn't. So that's one case. The other case is my favorite. I call this costing you more money. Now, what does that mean? It means that in this case, the bad actor doesn't really want to bother my business. He's not a competitor business. He's actually somebody out there looking to make money and a lot of it. So, how does that happen? So, first of all, our bad actor will go online and will look for the various forms that my business has. And they'll start filling them up with all kinds of shit data. A lot of data, all kinds of names and addresses and blah, blah, blah. But the key thing is that they're going to put in all sorts of phone numbers in there. Okay. Now, phone numbers, most people don't realize is that there are phone numbers that when you dial these phone numbers, the owner of the phone number gets money. There was a case uh, that I read about in the UK only last week. That was really cool. So this guy in the UK was getting a lot of calls from contact centers, and he was really pissed. And what did he do? He said what he simply did. He put a call forwarding on his phone number from his phone number to a premium number. So whenever a contact center will call him, the call will get diverted into a premium number, and the contact center will be paying something like 5p, which is about 10 cents per minute to talk to him. And he's been doing that for about 10 years now. He made about $120,000 out of these calls from contact centers to his phone. So what happens here is that our bad actor will basically inject data into our dialing list that will contain phone numbers that generate cash from him for him. Now, what will happen next is that you can buy these numbers from all these carriers. There are dozens of these international premium rate numbers called IPRNs or IPRS providers. And the outbound agent will gladly call one of these numbers, and at the end of the numbers is going to be a PBX, a machine that just answers and go, yeah, yeah, rip, no, not really, yeah. And what does the agent do? It wants to please, and it will keep on talking till that recording agrees with it in some way or another. 5, 6, 10 minutes, eventually it will hang up. Even if the outbound agent has a time limit saying, okay, don't call, if you didn't get to your goal in 5 minutes, hang up the call. Doesn't matter, the damage is already done. That guy got cash. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, how much money can somebody actually make out of this, right? So let's have a look. I'm going to going to premium, sorry, international premium rate numbers, number providers, payout. Let's see. Telepremiums. Okay, international premium, domestic premium. Again, this is just, let's have a look. About premium rate numbers, terminations. Okay, international premium rate application. See, they actually market it as a valid thing. It's an industry thing. Um, let's see. Termination added. See, they don't even tell you how much they're gonna pay you. There you go, premium rate. They don't tell you how much what the payout is. Simply because they know very well that everybody's been looking for it. Let's see, maybe something MediaTel. MediaTel normally does that. There you go, international premium payments. Get rates, generate traffic, receive payments. Market leader, yada yada yada. Access app. SMS. Let's see. Negotiable, deal, blah blah blah. Even they don't publish the rates. What else? Let's see. Sometimes these can be as low as sub-cent, and sometimes they can be up to 10 cents a minute. Can you
So near
imagine? Yeah.
as an AI agency owner, if I was working with like a dentist office and I was taking all their inbound calls, wouldn't I want a phone number like this? So anytime someone calls my agent, my inbound agent, they have to pay?
Yes, but you have to remember that these numbers are expensive to call too. So if you're an agency working for a dentist, I don't think the dentist's customers would like to pay 15 cents per minute to call the dentist. It's kind of counterproductive. He already charges them like a
Yeah,
thousand bucks.
I don't know if they'd like that either. How do they tell if they're being charged for minutes like that?
Who is they?
The user that's calling the dentist office.
Right, that's the problem. They don't always know.
They don't
But
always
they'll
know, do they?
and they'll find out at the end of the month.
And their
And then
Verizon bill.
somebody's gonna get bill shocked. And somebody's gonna scream and sue
If they're
somebody.
if they're calling, I mean, if you're calling the dentist for 10 hours a day, what if it's a 2-minute call, then it's what, 20 cents that you would make?
Yeah, okay. Multiply that by 10 hours.
I'm not calling a dentist for 10 hours in one day.
But
I
I
don't think
don't think
I'd
the customer is paying for this. Who eats this is the carrier.
What, the an international premium rate? No. The customer pays that. Normally, international premium rate are international calls.
No, I'm not talking about international. The US numbers that
You're talking about rural.
yeah.
Yeah, in the US, the carrier will eat that expense. But
if
if
the
it's done through
customer
what?
if the customer like tries to deny that expense, the carrier will pay for it.
Owen, you have a little bit more
The
updated info
RBOK,
on that
I
one.
think it's called RBOK.
How do you spell it?
I think it's RBOC.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking if I create a platform for a dentist office, then whenever they're calling me, whenever they're calling that number, I have to pay retail or whatever I'm using. But then instead of that cost can just be negated by the cost that the customer is paying with one of these premium numbers.
I'm gonna ask you something. If that would have been a logical thing to do or possible, don't you think retail would have done that in order to reduce their costs or to provide that back to the customers and saying, I'm going to give you that part of the service for free?
Well, retail doesn't want to reduce their costs. They want to increase their costs to make as much money as they can
Still, it's a
for
marketing
us.
thing.
Well, it means that they would make money from the back end. I would not recommend you to even think about this direction. It's very
Yeah.
sneaky.
Look, premium services, You know, in the US, there's something called 0900s, right? You know what that is?
No,
Really?
I don't think so.
So there's something called paper call in the US. Basically, it's 0900 or 0976. These are premium rate numbers that when you call them, you pay sometimes up to, I think, like $1 a minute.
What?
Yep, exactly. They were used back in the 90s and 80s for TV shows. Like you would call in, and the first one that
Was it,
calls in gets, I don't know, whatever. And
was
people
it a
call in and
psychic
answer
hotline?
something.
The
What?
psychic hotline to use that.
Psychic hotlines and all that stuff. Exactly. And the thing is that I think that right now in the US, people don't even remember that these still exist.
So if you call that phone number, then you have, if I call that phone number, I have to pay a
Yes.
dollar a minute.
Yes. Because these numbers are outside of the normal US dialing plan.
But that mostly worked when we had copper because you just pick up the phone and they're not, it's added to your bill after the fact. So you may not even know. But now with mobile, you have to opt in, right? You can't just
You
call
need, correct. Today you
it.
need to opt into it.
Yeah.
But I think by default you're opted in today. I think you need to ask them to to opt you out. I think you're by default opted in.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. Well, you can test it.
No, thank you.
Hey, think about it this way. You can create maybe an NSFW chatbot with, I don't know, voice backend and have people call it, and they'll have fun.
That's and where who's in trouble for that? Who's
And no one, that's perfectly legal.
That's legal, but
That's legal
maybe
because
not maybe not ethical.
I don't see
That's
how
adult
having such a
stuff.
thing is not
Yeah.
ethical.
Yeah, that's adult stuff. That's if it's
Yeah.
NSF, that's fine. There's some grays in what nears community. There's a gray area, but
Just
that particular use case,
grayish. It's a grayish area.
yeah, yeah, grayish.
It's a grayish area.
Well, that's just like entertainment. That's
Yeah, something. Let me just stop the recording for now.
yeah,
Because we kind of
yeah,
figured, I mean, we were getting into this topic that is
yeah. I
really
was trying to
charged.
figure out how to
Yeah, of that.
navigate around that.
Yeah.